Everyone, Temporal here, and today it has happened. We have some big news surrounding Activision Blizzard. They were acquired by Microsoft for $69 billion, and we're going to take a look at that, see what that means. Let's start by digging into the press release here and sort of see what the focus is. And here we've got, until this transaction closes, Activision Blizzard and Microsoft Gaming will continue to operate independently. Once the deal is complete, the Activision Blizzard business will report to me as CEO, Microsoft Gaming. And this, of course, is the press release. This came out from Phil Spencer. They released this through their Microsoft Gaming here. So that's a big ad. They're putting this in their Microsoft Gaming area. That does make sense, but it is a big company to be acquired. Okay. Upon close, we will offer as many Activision Blizzard games as we can within Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass. Both new titles and games from Activision Blizzard's incredible catalog. We also announced today that Game Pass now has more than 25 million subscribers. As always, we look forward to continue to add more and great games to Game Pass. So this is definitely something that's interesting, where we know that they've been pursuing this in a, hey, they might lose the console war or the console battle, but they're trying to win sort of the long-term war with their service, with their subscription service. They've been a real player there with fair bit of value in terms of what they have there. Now they've got to figure out, okay, can we get Activision Blizzard's games in there? Which the answer will mostly, I'm sure, be yes, they can. It's possible that they will be in a place where... What was I saying? It's possible that they'll be at a place where maybe some games have been licensed out or something like that and had, non-competes in terms of no, can't be put in someone else's thing. But that shouldn't really be the case for any major titles that we'd be thinking about here. So this is interesting, very interesting, and clearly this is one of the things, since it's pretty much the first thing that they go into in their press release, this, hey, we want to expand Xbox Game Pass with the Activision Blizzard library. That's one of the first things on their mind here. There are definitely other things on their mind, one of which is, hey, they could snap it up at a discount because, let's face it, Activision Blizzard stock are what, down 40% from their high after what they've faced in terms of issues over time. Other things would be plays in the metaverse. Other things would be, hey, what level of dominance can they establish? We obviously know that Microsoft doesn't have the level of exclusives that Sony has, and is that something that they'd be willing to turn and do? I think the answer is no. I don't think you'd be willing to lose the value effectively of that company releasing to everyone, but maybe it's worth. Anyway, let's keep going here. We have a super chat coming in from Adam in Charge saying the puppet is pleased for $1.99. Thank you, Adam, for that super chat. I'll catch up with the rest of you in just a bit, chat. The fantastic franchises across Activision Blizzard will also accelerate our plans for cloud gaming, allowing more people in more places around the world to participate in the Xbox community using phones, tablets, laptops, and other devices you already own. Activision Blizzard games are enjoyed on a variety of platforms, and we continue to support those games moving forward. Right, so again, they're really interested in how big can we pump this Xbox Game Pass, and Activision Blizzard have a lot of people that use their launcher. We can see that there, So can they get that ecosystem in some way? Can they pull enough of those people? Can they move enough of them over to their Xbox Game Pass would become a question. They'd certainly like to, by seeing all those monthly users, they're salivating a little bit. Obviously, Game Pass is paid for. Activision Blizzard stuff is, historically been you buy the game, you own it, that sort of thing, and it's not likely to change on games that's already the case for, that people already own. Owning video games doesn't really happen in the modern day and age, but hey. From a fully legal sense, you don't actually own it, but that's fine. They're not likely to start charging us for those games that people already have. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm just thinking they're looking at, okay, how can they get more people into their ecosystem and create their Netflix of gaming, but not modern Netflix where it's losing that market share to Amazon and Disney Plus and HBO, but like one from a few years ago where it more had that grip on the industry, and can they do it? And this could help them in that goal. And then we see here, this is important. This is, of course, them talking about, hey, they'll do better. So, as a company, Microsoft is committed to our journey for inclusion in every aspect of gaming among both employees and players. We deeply value individual studio cultures. We also believe that creative success and autonomy go hand in hand with treating every person with dignity and respect. We hold all teams and all leaders to this commitment. We're looking forward to extending our culture of proactive inclusion to the great teams across Activision Blizzard. So, that's something that they had to put out there, something along those lines to say, hey, yeah, we know Activision Blizzard has had some trouble with lawsuits and some trouble with PR and some trouble, not even with PR, but some trouble inside their studio with harassment. I can probably say that once, things like that. And that's not been the best thing for them. So this is their way of saying, hey, there's an adult in the room now. We'll take care of this. This won't be a big deal. And they're probably right. And what I mean by that is the community at large will probably back off because they want to be able to play Activision Blizzard games and not feel bad. And this is a perfectly reasonable excuse for people to be able to go and for the press to sort of back off, for the press to back off, or people that want to play but maybe felt bad, or people that were wanting to say bad things. Like, it's a perfectly good excuse for people to back off and go, oh yeah, but Microsoft will take care of that and that'll be fine now. Whether they can actually instantly go fix things, probably not, but it's not surprising. And this is what the firings yesterday, they had 3 dozen firings yesterday. That actually could have been a bit of a tip-off that this was happening. It's pretty normal for companies that are acquiring other companies to go, hey, we want you to handle those terminations. We want you, anyone that's questionable, anyone that we might not want, anyone that, maybe is a question mark, you need to get rid of them before we acquire them so that, that's on your books as opposed to our books when it comes to a lawsuit, wrongful termination in the future, anything along those lines. So that could have been a little bit of a tip-off, but again, here we'll see a little less of them just getting blasted in the news for their workplace and the frat boy culture, things like that. Will they still have to deal with the lawsuits? Yes, of course. And, in theory, now there's a bigger wallet to go after with those lawsuits. But the reality is, even no longer taking as big of a PR hit is going to be good for Activision Blizzard. So they kind of got saved on this one because it was going to be hard to move away from this news we saw. It's certainly doable. We've seen Riot move away from bad news like this. We've seen other developers and studios move away from news like this. This is one way to move away from it, and I expect it to be pretty successful, and that we're not going to see them getting kicked while they're down nearly as much as they were before. So this was standard, this was to be expected, but it does do some good things for Activision Blizzard. And for those of you that are asking, Activision Blizzard CEO is very much still in place. As we saw up here, they are continuing to operate independently until it closes, whatever. But the real thing there is it's not terribly surprising that he would continue to be in place. Yes, he'll have a new boss that he has to report into now, and he'll probably find his way out. He'll probably exit within a few years, would be my guess. But that's pretty normal to have some sort of, hey, we're bringing in the CEO, we're bringing in the guy who was running things, and let's have him. Maybe he'll do an earn-out clause where he's going to work for them for a few years before leaving because they want to make sure his company gets integrated smoothly and they want to make sure they don't ruffle too many feathers at the company, that sort of thing. Or they want to make sure they get all the information out of his head for how things work, that they've properly used all of his contacts, that sort of thing. Now, some people might be saying feathers would be less ruffled if they got rid of him, but that's unlikely to immediately happen with how business goes down. So he's very likely to stay around for a couple of years. May stay around for longer still. I kind of doubt it. I suspect we'll be looking at some sort of earn out and then he's out. I don't think we're looking at Bobby going, oh yeah, I'm not just going to play second fiddle to Microsoft. I'm going to play second fiddle to Xbox gaming within Microsoft. That doesn't seem likely for the guy that already has plenty of money. He'd probably rather go be top or near top somewhere else or go start some other business, but he will absolutely stay around to do an earn-out, would be my guess. Yeah, so you've very much got that. The statement Phil Spencer made about the concerning events at Blizzard leadership was very much theater, and it's actually pretty good revenge for Microsoft because not only did Microsoft get to help drive down Activision stock before they purchased it, They even got to get Nintendo in on it. They got Sony and Nintendo to make their bad statements, and Nintendo, who's usually reserved about this sort of thing, made a statement, and that's gotta feel pretty good if you guys understand the history, where Microsoft actually at one point was thinking like, oh, we can go buy Nintendo out. Rather than doing this Xbox thing, let's just go buy Nintendo out to get into the gaming space. And Nintendo laughed them out of the room. So it's got to feel a little good for them now, years later, to have sort of been able to play the gaming industry a little bit like that, to get everyone else to, bash on them a little harder to knock them down, including Nintendo, which, made the public put more pressure on them, which drove down their stock prices like that. So, yes, it was theater, and it was well played. It was well played. It's legal. Perfectly legal as far as I can tell, but it was funny to see, and yeah, that is very much a driving factor in what happened there. So, we'll jump over here. This was a press release, so we wanted to read some other stories. I took a look at the CNN story. I took a look at the Reuters story. Took a look around Twitter from some of the investigative journalists to see if there was other stuff here that was, maybe we knew still, because press releases are kind of, here's what we want you to know, that sort of thing. Nothing too wild. We know that this makes them the third largest gaming company by revenue after Tencent and Sony. That's never completely fair because Tencent has their, both of those companies have their hands in quite a bit more than gaming, but Tencent especially, but that's fine. We see that, where was this? Talk about the metaverse arms race. And that's a thing. I really look at that and go, hey, that's a thing. Yes, I'm sure they will make some plays in it. Yes, adding another game studio to their, a big one to their portfolio really does make them much bigger in terms of being able to make a play there. I think they're really more interested in the Game Pass stuff at this point, and we can see that here. As we see, Microsoft is talking about its Game Pass, more than 25 million subscribers. Executives talked up Activision's 400 million monthly active users as one major attraction to the deal, and how vital these communities could play in Microsoft's various metaverse plays. Could be big for them in the metaverse play. Could be big for them in terms of, hey, can you move some bit of these over to your monthly subscriber thing? Can you create a hub that, is the hub, is the place that you stop, like Netflix used to be the place that you stop for streaming, for gaming, that sort of thing. Activision's library of games could give Microsoft Xbox gaming platform an edge over Sony PlayStation, which has enjoyed a more steady stream of exclusive games. Again, I'm not convinced I buy that. And the reason for that is, that's potentially a lot of money that would have been factored into the value of Activision, of expecting their games to sort of be released everywhere. And I am mostly talking Call of Duty here, though all of Blizzard type games too, I suppose. That value would have been factored into how much you paid for them. If you're now going to go, no, it's only going to release on our Xbox ecosystem, or only our Xbox ecosystem and PC, that, is going to cost them a bit. And is that a cost that they're willing to pay, given that they just paid for this company? Is that worth it to get more people onto their platform? Probably not. Maybe it's enough to go, hey, we're going to get more people into Xbox Live by releasing Overwatch 2 through the Xbox system, Diablo 4 not through the Xbox system, but through the Game Pass system, through the, by doing Call of Duty through the Game Pass system. It's possible that they would try to push more people there, and there is enough pull to do it. So that would be something to watch out for, see if they're willing to do, or if they consider that, hey, we're taking too much of a hit because we won't, sell as many copies. That would certainly be interesting. And then there's talk about, hey, we believe the deal will get done, he said, but cautioned this will get a lot of looks from a regulatory standpoint. It might, because the public is somewhat aware of antitrust stuff right now, more so than I'd say they usually are, but not wildly so. We've seen some cell phone company mergers that have been blocked of about this size, where it's oh, look, the fourth biggest company wants to join the first or second biggest company. We've seen some things like that get blocked, but it's pretty rare. I would be surprised if this is blocked, to be honest. And yes, Microsoft is a big tech company. But if you look at who Congress has been pulling in over the last few years when they want to wag their finger at tech CEOs that they don't understand and have caused some tech CEOs perhaps to go, hey, I don't want to deal with you guys anymore. I'm just going to retire and own all this stuff and put someone else in front of Congress. I don't want to be the CEO anymore. You see that in terms of they like to bring Google, Apple, Amazon, they like to bring those companies in front. Microsoft has mostly been able to dodge that. We could go back a couple decades and sure, Microsoft had huge antitrust issues, but this is going to be an antitrust issue in gaming. Little bit doubtful, to be honest. Like, we might get a little bit of noise made, we might get a little bit of Congress people wanting to make sound bites, things like that, but I don't expect the regulatory agencies are actually going to go that hard after, hey, a gaming company, because I think they're mostly going to view that as, well, prices aren't going up, so okay, no problem there. Or if prices are going up, they're going up because we're on a new generation of console, that sort of thing, so all this makes sense. But I think it'll be hidden in a prices aren't going up because Game Pass type thing. And hey, they're not the biggest company, they're a large company eating another large company, but they're still not the biggest company. So I think they'll probably be okay from that standpoint. But yeah, those I think are the important bits that we see in this news here. So I look at this, I think this is good for Activision Blizzard. I think this also lets people who were there, who are maybe looking for other jobs, trying to go, hey, we don't want to be associated with this company, stay there as well. It makes Microsoft now, but Activision Blizzard, a place that game devs can feel like they can afford to go to, and this is going to be sorted out, which gives them the potential to make good games again. Does that mean that the brain drain that has already happened is all going to immediately be reversed? No, of course not. Does that mean that there's things to fear in terms of, hey, there's always things to fear when there's an acquisition of, hey, you guys made us believe before we acquired you that you were, I don't know, 80% done with Overwatch 2? So you've only got this much more time to release it because we said so, and then it's not actually ready, and then bad things like that. Could be. But you also find that companies are generally willing to invest quite a bit more after they've just acquired a company, more so in the beginning than later, to go, hey, we're going to make sure that Diablo 4 releases and it is a gem. We're going to make sure that you guys have all the resources you need for Overwatch 2. Those kinds of things pretty regularly happen. Sort of in the immediate post-acquisition like this, as long as the people at Activision aren't going, no, we're fine, we've got this, it's perfectly fine, we don't need more resources, because they want to sort of like defend, no, you acquired us and it was ready type thing, which sometimes you can get middle managers sort of messing up and getting in the middle of there. You can also see a new company coming in and wanting to vastly change the direction. Go, oh, you were going to include these things in Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, the next Call of Duty, whatever, and we want you to do these things as well. Wait, there's not time. Now you're trying to make us do that sort of thing and break things. But usually this would sort of put us in the honeymoon period if you'd expect things to go pretty well, and then you'd sort of see, okay, do things get worse? And you'd see this constantly in video game acquisition spaces where, hey, Activision Blizzard released pretty darn good games after Blizzard released pretty darn good games after the Activision acquired, but then years later they started to fall off as they fully merged in culture-wise there, but they got resources before they sort of got the mandates, we'll effectively say. And I'd expect similar stuff to happen here, but we will see. I wonder what it would have been like if EA bought Activision Blizzard. Oh dear, yeah, that wouldn't have been great. Excited for the potential with esports infrastructure. Before, some of the opportunities were out of range for just game company, but with backing like Microsoft, that's huge. Some. I think there's some like sponsors were out of reach, but they were getting top tier sponsors in terms of they had what? Toyota, they had sponsors that you really can't call anything but top tier. They're companies that everyone recognizes the name of: Toyota, Cheez-It, Coca-Cola, things like that. And you might go, oh, well, those are like snack companies, Coca-Cola, Cheez-It, that sort of thing. But like, okay, but they had plenty of stuff in there that, okay, it's tech related or snack related, I suppose, but like, no, I don't really think Activision Blizzard was struggling to attract sponsors, honestly. I don't think that one helps hugely. For $5, you can have this new Overwatch hero. I don't think they'll go there quite yet. I actually don't really think that's the model that they're pushing for, Semitic. Like, yes, you may have something like that because that might be the model that Activision Blizzard was previously pushing for. I don't think Microsoft particularly hard pushes them in that direction. I think Microsoft is much more interested in their how can we get more and more and more people into Game Pass because they want to sort of go, hey, we're going to get everyone here. We're going to be, the king of the industry for a bit that has all of the eyeballs on us. Wouldn't mind if they changed from the L format as long as it works well and brings bigger esports. Yeah, that'd be fine. I think that's tough sell at this point because there's been so much buy-in. Like there's been so much buy-in from teams. There's contracts that are involved. You have to get a lot of signing off and get a lot of people to be willing to go through hoops and sign that they're willing to change things to change the league too much. But we'll see. Golden era of gaming was PS3 360 era. Maybe. I don't know about that. Online was good, but you still owned things. No gaming subscriptions. Don't at me. Oh, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, so online subscriptions weren't too bad in the PS3 360 era. You still didn't really own things. You've got to go back further than that to like NES days to have actually owned your games. But sure. Microsoft knows how to acquire talent, though? Sure. If he leaves voluntarily and doesn't feel like he needs to leave, then he only gets 265K. There's almost certainly a earn-out clause that we haven't seen yet. Well, it'll probably come to light what his earn-out is, maybe. But there's almost certainly an earn-out clause for, hey, if you stay this long, then leave, you get this much. If you stay this long, then leave, you get this much. So he'll almost certainly get more than 265K when he leaves. He'll very likely stay long enough to go, hey, I'm going to stay, if I stay this long, I get, 10 million. If I stay this long, I get 30 million. If I stay this long, I get 500 million. Okay, I got 500 million. Cool. There's no more check marks that I can reach in terms of staying longer, earning more. I'm out. That sort of thing. Okay. What if Jeff was offered a position back if Microsoft tries to clean house of the controversial people? Well, they already did. Microsoft doesn't have to clean house of the controversial people because they made Activision Blizzard do it. That's what the 2 dozen firings that they did yesterday were about, and that is very common to make companies, get them off their payroll, fire them, etc. And it's very likely in this combination, in this acquisition that's happening, that some pool of money is effectively temporarily being held aside by the previous ownership group to go, hey, you paid us all this money to buy our company. We're going to put some of it in here, some of these dollar bills in here that we're willing to have available to us if we get sued under the old regime for those firings, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Right. Bobby Kotick gets 265 million if Microsoft lays him off without cause. Right, but he's also based in California, so we don't need cause for squat. But I get what you're saying. You're saying his contract gets him 265 million. They're not going to. There's not going to be in any rush to. I'm serious. They're not going to be in any rush to get rid of him, and he will quit on his own once he's done his earnout would be my guess. He's not going to be. I don't think Bobby is going to be happy going, I don't work for the CEO of Microsoft. I work for the president of gaming at Microsoft who reports to the higher ups in Microsoft. Like that's not going to make him happy. He's not going to have enough control over the growth. They might put him on some okay, we're putting you on Metaverse or something like that, or we're putting you on this other project over here like that, but he's not going to have the level of power and authority that he's used to, and he's not actually getting to level up in the world. It's not like he went from leading a 30-person company and now he gets to be a higher up, even if not the boss, in a 10,000 person company. He went from being the top of a large company to being quite a bit lower in a large company. He's gonna happily do his earnout, happily do what he needs to continue to make sure that, hey, the company is worth this much or it hits these goals by the time I'm gone, and then he'll leave. I would be surprised if that doesn't happen. Did Frito commit insider trading? I doubt this is what they knew about. I doubt this is the announcement. If people have seen stuff that promises that this was the announcement, cool. But I actually doubt that there was, this is it would have been foolish, in my opinion, and my My opinion of the companies, both companies, but more Activision Blizzard, will go down if they let a bunch of people who make their living by putting out videos on the internet, sometimes about the news, if they told them that, which could have led to a leak about this, like, that would be very weird. I doubt that's what happened. Unless I'm going to see in a tweet that makes it likely it is. Overwatch mobile game is all but certain now? Probably. If Frito from your Overwatch goes to prison for insider trading, whose guides and tier list will Temporal give negative reviews to? I'm an equal opportunity hitman there. I sometimes go after the Your Overwatch stuff. Sometimes we go after Sumito. Sometimes we go after Game Leap guides. If there were more players, I'd be willing to go after more people's lists. But Your Overwatch, has a bit of a survivorship thing going on where they're big and they still exist, so we're gonna poke fun at them. Hi, Temporal. I wonder, was this discussed at the content creators meeting? It would explain their optimism. I highly doubt it. Too much potential for leak and not any good reason for the content creators to know, to be perfectly honest. I think it's much more likely that something actually related to Overwatch's future and not Activision Blizzard's future was there. And this stuff would have only excited them from we're gonna get new blood because we're gonna get investment from Microsoft and Microsoft is going to staff our places better and we'll stop having a talent drain. I get that, but I'm not sure I count on a bunch of content creators to put that together. If memory serves, Super was invited to that meeting. And I got no issue with Super, but in my eyes, I'm an old man. Super's just a kid, and Super isn't going to make some of those connections. It's just increasing leak probability. I think it's much more likely that what they were told at the content creator had to do with how they're going to roll out Overwatch 2 or some things that are going to be in Overwatch 2, or more likely, how they're going to use the content creators to drive viewership and how that's going to drive viewership to the content creators, but they feel it's worth it because it'll also bring attention back to their game. So I think it's very unlikely. Okay. Tomito said it wasn't, if I remember correctly, confirmed downstream. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I would have very much concerns, if it had been, to be perfectly honest. That would have been, a terrible move. I'll know I made it when I can get properly criticized by Temporal. We did criticize the 3,000 subscriber guide maker pretty recently, so it can happen. Sometimes I'll go after the small fish. I'm worried about this because it was mentioned in the article that Bobby would still be the CEO of Activision Blizzard. I think I've covered that, Sonic the Otter. I wouldn't be too worried about that. He'll probably stick in that position for 2 years, 3 years, something like that to fulfill some sort of earnout clause, and then he'll move on. He's the sort of guy who money isn't a problem for him anymore. He's made plenty of money. I'm serious. If you look at his worth, he's made plenty of money. He's almost certainly making more money from his investments than he is from salaries, that sort of thing at this point, even with impressive salaries. And he's now going to be in a place where once he can't drive enough. He's not the CEO of Microsoft. He's not reporting to the CEO of Microsoft. He's reporting to the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, which is basically, their Xbox guy, their Xbox Live guy, that sort of thing. And he's therefore himself not going to have enough control over the company that he'll now have earned some stock in Microsoft, that sort of thing. When he's driving Activision and he has a bunch of Activision stock, he's making money not through his salary, though he is doing that. He's making money by making Activision do better, and he's having a fair amount of influence over his net worth. When he's 3 tiers down from the top of Microsoft, he's not having a ton of influence over Microsoft's work, over Microsoft's value, so he's just working at that point. And that's a lot less interesting, and he'll probably go start another company, go sit on board somewhere, that sort of thing, rather than do that. That's just the type of person that usually ends up in the type of position that Bobby is in, / the stage in his life he is in, the cycle of where he is with his wealth, that sort of thing. Surely Sumito and Red Shell could be trusted with information worth millions and told not to use it. Surely, totally. What's the biggest implication an acquisition like this have? If you haven't covered it already, come to the party late. No problem. So I would say The biggest factors that we'd consider here from an Overwatch standpoint as Overwatch fans would be, hey, we look at this, and while Microsoft very much could come in here with some, hey, you said you'd have this, you said you'd have this, go do it, we're not helping you. It's more likely, I would say, that Microsoft wants to make sure their new acquisition does well and will be willing to pump some level of resources in. So that's good to make sure that their next two releases, so we're really talking Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, look good. They'd be willing to spend resources probably to a greater degree than Activision Blizzard would have, quite honestly, of like, hey, we'll get you anything you need, we'll send people over from other departments, we'll do this. Like, that's pretty common. Companies are frequently friendly when they're happy with their new acquisition and like, oh, what do you need? It gets harder later, but that would be a thing. Another thing would be a lot of the bad press surrounding the frat boy culture is going to get wiped out by this. So it won't get completely wiped out. They'll still have to face their lawsuits, but a lot of that is going to be wiped out because you get to blame previous management, that sort of thing. And, oh, Bobby's still there, but Bobby's not really in charge anymore, remember? He's reporting into Spencer. So, like, you get to wipe out a lot of that bad press, which helps the game land better. When the Kotakus and the Verges and the Polygons of the world have to go, we're gonna say bad things about them, we're gonna get our clicks, and it's just not gonna work as well. It's gonna knock out some bad press, which is good for them from a standpoint of that actually helps land traction and potentially snowball a better release of these games here. I would say those are some of the major things from an Overwatch or a Blizzard standpoint. From a Microsoft standpoint, they're looking at, hey, we brought in a bunch of new users. And what can this do from a Game Pass perspective? Game Pass perspective, this clearly is something that they care about right here. And then maybe we've got secondarily a play in the metaverse, maybe, or in the exclusives, maybe. In terms of, hey, well, I think if we do exclusives, it'll be to drive more people to Game Pass. Based. Thank you, Ant. Thank you. Bobby will be put in charge of the stationery cupboard. I mean, maybe. The thing is, he won't be put in charge of that. He might be put in charge of that years in, but the reality is, guys, Bobby drove a company very, very successfully. I know people don't like him, and I know people like foaming at the mouth, ready for the Blizzard issues to be his fault, his problem in terms of misconduct, in terms of frat boy culture, but they mostly weren't. And yes, we were able to get some reporting to dig up issues with Bobby surrounding similar types of things, but a belief that he was really causing that culture in the Blizzard world when that culture clearly existed before him just isn't really true. Like, I know we don't like Bobby, the internet doesn't like Bobby, but Bobby drove that company very successfully from a shareholder standpoint. And let's be serious, the head of Microsoft and the shareholders at Microsoft are going to go, hey, that guy's talented. He drove his company pretty well. He made them go from being worth this much to being worth this much. Yeah, he got outplayed at the end here, and we were able to, at a deep discount, acquire his company. And that's cool, but like, we want to keep using him because he's definitely better than the average bear at this making us money thing. And he'll do it for a little bit because they'll have some sort of, golden parachute earnout type thing that will cause him to for a bit. They're not going to put him in charge of organizing the cupboard. And if they do, it'll be 3 years from now when they've extracted all the value out of his connections with other companies, out of, his ability to know owners of the Patriots and get them to sign on to things like Overwatch League, things like that. Okay. Maybe they would change their view on Overwatch and release content for Overwatch 1 to help us wait for Overwatch 2. Could be. They have the authority to do that, certainly. I don't think it's likely because I think they're much more likely to be in a, hey, we're letting you be independent standpoint. It's possible that some of the cries of, oh, hey, we don't have enough resources will lead to we'll give you some resources so you can do Overwatch 2 and 1 at the same time. But again, it's going to depend what middle and upper managers within Activision get in the way of that, to be quite honest. What do I think this entails for Owl? I don't know that it entails, well, I don't know, to be perfectly honest. From an owl standpoint, like Microsoft could go, hey, can we make this a more can we use this platform to make it a more video game Olympics type thing, a broader video game type thing that'll get more viewership? But I don't know that they will because there's still these buy ins that were associated with these companies. That's a tough one. There's places that they could go because Microsoft certainly has a broader area that they can play in than Activision Blizzard did. And, Activision Blizzard was no small company, guys. Don't underestimate the size of Activision. Don't underestimate the size of King, which was under the Activision umbrella either. But Microsoft has a little more, as one of the three console makers, like they have a little bit more room in that sort of thing. I don't know. I don't have any predictions that are like more than 5 or 15% likely there, Starsville. So I would say no changes to Overwatch 2, but no changes to Owl, but no changes to Owl isn't like a greater than 40% chance either. They could also release other games using Overwatch IP, example a Mecha Squad shooting game. Well, they could do that, and they could use Activision Blizzard. They could use Blizzard really because that's who you want for this thing. In much the same way that EA uses things like BioWare, where they acquire a company, use its good name for a while to release games with their branding on it, with their logo on it that they really didn't have that much to do with, sort of drive its value from a what the public really respects and is willing to go buy from it into the ground, but in doing so, profit off of things like that. I don't think they'll do that. That's really more of an EA approach. I mean, we saw EA has tried to buy legitimacy like that a couple times, but people figured out. We saw Activision tried to buy some level of legitimacy with Blizzard, though they then didn't treat Blizzard like that. They actually had Blizzard make Blizzard games. But we'll see. We'll see. No, the content creators were not told about this acquisition. We've had that confirmed by people in chat, and I would have been shocked if they had been. There just would not have been a good reason to tell them, and there would have been great reasons not to. Great reasons not to. But yeah, overall, this is good news, and we should be hopeful for this, guys. It could long term be a problem, but like the long term, oh, it's going to lose its sparkles, they're going to lose the Blizzard magic. They'd already lost that to Activision after a couple years, so this is sort of mostly good because now they get into a place of they potentially get, oh, look, you're our new favorite treatment where they get some resources sent at them, they get what they want, what they need, they get extra attention as it takes some time to implement to sort of engulf them over the next year or two. And then, a year or two later, it might start becoming, we don't like the direction it's going, but there were already, we don't like the directions that, Blizzard had been going once sort of the more acquisition stuff had really gotten more of the tendrils in there, that sort of thing. So we sort of in some ways you get the good part and we'd already suffered through the bad part. The bad things that we might look for that could happen in the relatively near future would be more exclusivity, where stuff is hard to get or only released in Microsoft's playgrounds and they're, either on their Xbox systems or on Xbox and PC or only through Game Pass, that sort of thing. That would be the potential bad news that we could see in the relatively short term. And I'm talking like 2 years here. After 2 years out, who knows? They're shuffled in, things could go anywhere. But mostly I look at this and go, hey, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Hope we get something cool this year. Me too. Me too. But I think we get to call it there because we've really covered what was important in what we have from the news articles. Like we read their release, their press release. We took a look at some other news sites here. I think we know what can be known at this point, and it's certainly interesting. I look forward to seeing where it takes us, and it's a bit of good news, I think, that we were past due for here in the Blizzard, Activision, Overwatch community. So I hope we get to see more good stuff. If you're enjoying this type of content, please do drop a like, consider subscribing. If you did not catch this live and you're jealous because you wanted to ask questions or make your thoughts known, best way to catch these live is to join my Discord in the description below, and then you can react and get roles to become a watcher, so you get pings when we go live and you can see what we're talking about. I was if it was Microsoft, it would make the full purchase price 69, 69, 60. Yeah, I see it. I see it for the lulz. I see what you're saying there, James. So yeah, that's gonna do it. And we saw Microsoft's price went down a little bit off the back of this, between like 0.7 and 1.5%, and we saw that Activision Blizzard stock went up quite a bit more than that. That's not terribly surprising. That's, how these things generally work. Microsoft, is taking a bit of a bet, is doing that sort of thing, and is spending a bunch of money, which means, okay, well, they have less money on hand, or they took on debt to do it. I think in this case, it was money on hand, and that, usually influences share price. But that's going to do it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.